want to play the music. All right, no music here, Richie Mars. We are live here on YouTube and Facebook. I meant to hit the play button, but technical difficulties. Richie, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing phenomenal. How are you, Ryan? It's been a minute. Been a great day for wrestling. It's a big weekend for wrestling, and kicking it off with Saturday night's main event. Like every Saturday night's main event, it seems like it's more of an advertisement for casual viewers for the upcoming shows coming up, and then you have a bunch of fun matches in between to start some new story beats and potentially end others, as we saw tonight.
Yeah, it was probably the worst of the three since returning to network TV on the Saturday night's main event, in my opinion. But it was fine. Overall disappointing in my eyes to an extent, but it depends where your expectations are. Because on paper, honestly, it was probably the most probably star-studded / okay, interesting matches so far out of the three, perhaps. But I don't know. I felt like, I don't know. At the end of the day, I felt a little disappointed. But overall, I think it was just the flow, honestly, what kind of took me out of it.
Honestly, I think 5 matches for for the whole 2 hour production and show was kind of pushing it a little bit, timing wise, because all these matches I feel like deserve to have, a lot of time put together for them. But unfortunately, when you're on live television and it's a 2 hour show on NBC, that's a special, you're not going to get the necessary time unless you're kind of wrapping it up quickly. And I feel like the tag team match had a great amount of time. I thought the United States Championship match also had their amount of time, and it seemed like during the middle after that show, it seemed like everything was kind of like quickening up a little bit, where it's like, all right, we're just gonna blow through all these spots, and then it's gonna be kind of like a fast forward button. If I were to describe how the show felt, it felt like watching a pay-per-view on 1.5 to 2.5 speed, of a regular show.
Yeah.
And you could definitely tell that in the main event, because by my watch, the world title match started around 9:48, 9:49.
Yeah, Logan Paul was walking in the ring at 9:50. I was
And you
going to
could,
make note of that.
yeah, and you can tell, like, because they didn't do the in-ring introductions. And that's what happens with live television. And especially because, NBC is like a huge network, you got to hit your time cues like immediately. You don't have an overrun, you don't have anything like that. And again, the speed run is going to be great for the casual viewers. For viewers like you and I, it's going to be seemingly more disappointing because we've had a couple weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks of build up for this show, and it all just kind of felt like rushed.
Yeah. I feel that maybe, well, first of all, you and I, first ever day of preview, I felt that adding the women's match was more of a, all right, let's kind of fit a quota instead of an actual, something to do here. If they just skipped out on that, massage those 7-8 minutes other places, we'd probably have been all right. I wouldn't mind clumping the commercials, like prolonging them instead of adding them in sequence like it's a sitcom, right? Like I would add it like a PLE where you have a continuous, I don't know, 5-minute commercial opposed to 2.5-minute commercials. I know. I guess that's probably not possible for network TV, but that's probably the biggest taste. The commercials and the flow of that kind of took me out of it and left a bad taste in my mouth. And it honestly had me searching around and being like, all right, what are the Red Sox doing? What's the basketball game looking like? Stuff like that.
Yeah, it's more like for network television in general. Again, the commercial breaks are a lot quicker.
Yeah.
And because of that, that's the viewers that they attract. This day and age, long form content, short form content. Yeah. Same thing with wrestling, unfortunately, sometimes where it's like a long match. It's like for you and I, we would love to see like a 20-30 minute barn burner, like for the steel cage, for the world title match, for the tag match. But unfortunately, that's not going to happen in this atmosphere. And even though that'd be cool for me, for casual viewers, it probably wouldn't be interesting to them, because who wants to see like a rest hold, for a long, elongated period of time.
Yeah.
And it's just like how the style of wrestling is different from what they want to portray on the mainstream to what they do on their weekly show and their weekly PLEs.
Yep. All right, we got a few comments here before we kind of jump into the show. Probably wrong podcast. What's up, Mike? Those constant commercials killed a great night. Same sentiment with me. And then Dominic Johnson. Hey guys, I love Jesse being there, but what a hell of he's talking about NBC wouldn't have steel cage matches 35 years ago. I wish he did more matches. Yeah, it's not like Hogan Orndorff.
Mhm.
Well, I guess they climbed out the cage, not
Yeah.
going through the steel cage door, right? I
Yeah.
thought Jesse was a kind of like a burden, but we'll get to him.
Mhm.
What overall? What's your thought on Jesse as I kind of get organized here to get ready to go through the show?
I like Jesse. It's obvious that he's just kind of doing his own thing a little bit with just like how he does it. And it's Jesse Flair, he takes the urine out of everything, so to speak. And the steel cage match, I feel like if you're going to combat Jesse on that finish, you have to be a lot stronger. And I feel like Michael Cole was off in his reasoning because it's an easy way to bury the babyface, for leaving the steel cage door. And when we get to that match, I'll say what I would do a little bit differently to portray Damian Priest as in a more positive light, other than walking through the steel cage door. But I think Jesse's presence is like a great additive, but it just kind of depends on what match you put him in. And I feel like the steel cage match was probably the proper match for him, but unfortunately, it's like one of those things where it's like the modernized steel cage match isn't going to flow with the older generation, and some people like it, some people don't, but it is what it is.
Yep. All right, we're gonna kick it off here. I still love that how we get the old school. I don't care that it's the third time now. Give us the old school video, old school ambiance, the old school feeling of the intro and stuff like that. I love that. I think it's perfect. And I hope they always continue that with Saturday's main event because there is nostalgia here. And why not play into it? And I love how they funnel in the different legends. Tonight we got some obscure one, as we'll get into, but I thought that they all fit and was cool. But we get the opening from Saturday night's main event and the opening match here, Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker with Paul Heyman defeating CM Punk and Sami Zayn via pinfall in a tag match in 13 minutes and 10 seconds. Oh my God, that CM Punk was a top 3 pop of the night, and that star is not fading whatsoever. So yeah, that was the entrance. The tone was set. And what did you think about starting it off with this tag match?
I thought starting it off with this or the cage match would have been the call to do.
Yes.
I'm glad that they started off with this, gets the crowd hypes up, like the CM Punk entrance, Sami Zayn's entrance, Seth Rollins' entrance. You have all these interactive entrances, and this is what WWE is trying to do rather than make lines between babyface and heel. They just want to make their stars popular. They want to make their stars cool. And that's a lot like how it was in the Attitude Era. Everyone got pops. It wasn't just consistent boos and getting heel heat. It was about, hey, we're going to make a group popular. We're going to make Seth popular, Braun popular, Sammy, Punk, etc. And now you have another guy in the fold, which we're going to get to. But as a tag match itself, I thought it was fine. It was like a Raw main event kind of tag match. And that's not knocking on it. But we saw Punk hit a code red. We saw Punk in pretty good shape. And then you had Bronson Reed come out. And it was pretty funny because you could see by the camera angle, like this big dude jumping the barricade and just marching all the way. And then taking out Punk, which led to the finish of Braun and Seth winning here.
Yeah, I think Punk has a really hot tag, right? And the crowd was here all along. Perfect time for Sammy to kind of play that underdog to build to the Punk tag, and typical formula. Let me take a break right here. Brandon Janu hopping in with a bunch of emojis, 100% wrestling, listening, talking, muscles, praying. Thank you, buddy. Check him out. Give him a sub. Wrestling sports content. We had him on last week preview, so guys, give him a sub while you're here. Thanks for jumping in, Brandon. And yeah, it was kind of, you could hear the crowd kind of erupt. It was like you could feel something was coming when Reed was coming. And then you see his little Australian pudgy legs jump over the barricade and just wreak havoc. And what's something, Richie? I didn't consider him as a third man. But if you think about it, right?
It does make a lot of sense why he would.
A lot of sense on a bunch of layers.
Because if you think about it, yes, Rollins and Reed feuded for much of last year.
Yes.
And I thought it was a very good feud, and I really enjoyed their chemistry together. But with the War Games and Punk saving Roman, which caused Bronson to break. I think was it one or both his legs or ankles? Might
At
have.
least I think he
Yeah,
shattered at
yeah.
least one.
So
But
it would
yeah,
make sense. The enemy of the enemy is my friend. So in this case, Punk is the clear enemy, and Rollins and Reed are now on the same page because of their mutual dislike for CM Punk, and now realizing that they're stronger together by taking out Punk. That makes this group flow a little bit more, and it makes a lot of sense to that fact. And you could always revisit the Seth Rollins Bronson Reed hate uh, as well, where it's like, all right, Punk's taken care of now. Bronson's attention is to Seth. But again, as a group, I really do feel like it's being more complete than it once was previously.
all right, so three things with the Reed thing, right? So you could say that he could target CM Punk because ultimately CM Punk was the one that pulled Roman Reigns off the table that, shattered his ankle, you could
Mhm,
say. Seth Rollins, the loose end there with Bronson Reed. Well, Seth Rollins knows Bronson Reed's absolute strengths, from a presentation
mhm,
character standpoint, or as being as big as Emily last summer. Well, I know him, so let's get him on this team. And number three, I thought it was unique and it could build into something instantly. Braun Breaker he stepped up and said, "Well, what's going on here?" Right?
mhm,
Like, are you, and then Seth had to kind of slide in and say, "No, no, no, he's with us."
mhm,
So a little layers where
mhm,
Braun Breaker. We have to be careful with these Browns, by the way.
mhm,
Braun Breaker did not inform was not informed by Seth that Bronson Reed
mhm,
was coming along, and perhaps Braun Breaker's alpha or protective, or I don't know how you want to put it, like pit bull guard dog
mhm,
style,
mhm. Well,
maybe
well,
felt a little kind of altered with Bronson Reed there. You could play into that too, not right away, but
right,
down
yeah. And I think the reason why Braun Breaker would allow this kind of like being hidden from him is because the story is Seth and Paul are teaching Braun Breaker how to be a top guy.
yeah,
And so he's going to let this slide for a little bit because look, he helped us win even though Braun Breaker probably didn't want the help
yeah,
like in story, but again, he's still learning the tricks of the trade because he was always as an individual this like I said in our preview, this chaotic kind of energy. But now it's time to learn how to harness and control that in order to progress further up the card. And that's exactly what the story is. It's about not only containing Braun Breaker to a certain degree, but also making that slow burn to see if we're going to see a heel Braun Breaker or babyface Braun Breaker, and most importantly, a popular Braun Breaker.
yeah.
And I think a lot of people might point out to after the tsunami on CM Punk, you heard some chance of one more time, and I'm sure people are going to point. It's like, oh, look, they're turning on Punk. I mean, they were singing the guy's entrance, so they're not turning on Punk.
He's over like Rover.
Yeah, the thing is, it's like WWE is more concerned with making things popular than they are heel babyface because as long as the fans are making noise at the appropriate time, then it's like a non-issue because then it's like, bam, I want to go there, which is why Jey Uso got as popular as he did. So with this tag match, it sets more of the foundation. Sami Zayn took the pin. I thought they might have had Punk take the pin in order to build up Braun Breaker a little bit more, but you could always put that off more towards like the SummerSlam area if you want to go in that direction. But overall, I thought it was like a good story beat for the story. As a match, it was fun. I thought I think it was I'm not sure if I had any favorite matches on this show. They just kind of came and went, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we got two commercial breaks on this one. That was like rough timing. You had the intros, the entrance, and then you had a spear like 30
Hmm.
seconds, 60 seconds into the match, two and a
Hmm.
half minute commercial break. You came back, really nice match, started getting to a flow, big move, commercial break, another one, and then we had the heat at the end and the go home. Two other things with the touches there with CM Punk. I love how he like desperately called in the ring and then got his hands on Paul, and then it was over. And as soon as it was over, I love how they set up for the tsunami and they like or Breaker grabbed his legs, Rollins grabbed his arms, and he was like laid out, and then he gave him
Hmm.
the tsunami like that, where he was completely vulnerable at
Hmm.
to add an extra layer. to the Tsunami too.
Yeah.
So
And again, the lines are drawn. You have 3 on one side, so far 2 on the other side. It wouldn't surprise me if they had like a little stopgap, and I know they released this guy a little bit, but before you'll have like Punk, Sammy, and possibly Braun Strowman before they bring back Roman, as a little stopgap if you want to save Roman a little bit. But I think all eyes are leaning towards Sammy, Roman, Punk potentially against the trio of Seth, Braun, and Bronson. So again, we'll see what happens in regards to that. But right now, we're going to see this group run roughshod on Raw for a little bit, and I'm very curious to see where it goes.
yep. And last comment here on this match, probably wrong podcast. Sammy looked great tonight. Also, need to see how Bronson Reed is going to play out. Love that guy. So
Yeah, Bronson's been great for a really long time, and it's one of those maximizing your minutes moments with him, where he was given the opportunity to work with Seth. And to Seth's credit, he's probably one of the best workers in the company, if not the best. And he made Reed look like $1,000,000. And then Reed's feud with Braun Strowman helped elevate him to that next level. So now, like, he's like right back in that position where he can be showcased, and he's not just going to be, in Vignette City. Like, we're going to have like 3, 4, 5 week vignettes of hyping his return. Now it's like, boom, right away, we got Bronson. He's aligned with Seth. He's aligned with Paul. He's aligned with Breaker. So loved how it was done.
cool. All right. And the next we got here was Zelina Vega defeating Chelsea Green with Alba Fire and Piper Niven by pinfall in a singles match for the WWE Women's United States Championship in a little bit over 5 minutes. Exact time, 5 minutes and 10 seconds. Richie, this match was kind of just there. It was fine. It was sloppy. It was disconnect. Vega, kind of we talked about that charisma earlier in the day when we previewed this match. It's still there. It's still there, but it's not connecting, in that way. Chelsea looks like a star, feels like a star. That 619 was rough. And that
I think Chelsea got busted open, I think.
Yeah. Oh, she did. I don't know if it was on the 619
Yeah.
or whatnot, but
it could have been just like she was busted open and she wasn't really sure where she was. Like,
so you think they went home early or
no? I think it was the appropriate time.
because that felt the looks of that finish. What was it? The code right off the top rope or whatever. It felt like that would be the finish of a match.
No, yeah, and it was a finish of one of their previous matches as well.
Yeah.
This was more of a finality into the story of Chelsea Green and Zelina Vega, like we mentioned on the preview. I really do think that Julia is probably going to be next in line post Money in the Bank because of the pin that we saw on Friday. And with Zelina, I said it's really tough because, you take her out of the LWO faction. She's on her own on SmackDown. And usually that's tough enough because you have to build a star. Now you're not only trying to build her star, but also build her as champion, which is a whole nother stratosphere as well. Because you could be a very popular star. It's another thing being a very popular champion. And I feel like WWE, you have the tools to make Zelina a top figure because her looks unique compared to the rest of the women. Like again, I don't really care about the size. I know that might be a discrepancy for some people, but with her, she's very charismatic, and I feel like if she's given more the opportunity to, I think she could have a great connection with the audience. And it doesn't help that her Def Rebel song is just not really. You can't really groove to it like a CM Punk or Sami Zayn song, if you catch my drift.
Yeah. Like we talked about earlier, and I wonder if anyone in the comments would kind of share this sentiment or disagree with it. I think her charisma shines others, not herself, right? And there's something there. It's just by herself with that belt, it just feels empty.
Well, I think it's like a give and take. You know what I mean? It's like what Chelsea has with Piper and Alba, where it's like you can be a great additive and you could get yourself over because of that. But when you have limited people to work off of, then it becomes kind of difficult. Like with not to make a rash comparison, but with John Cena, it was really hard to connect with him as a kid for me because he wouldn't really associate with any of the baby faces until later on in his run. And as a result, that's the joke of that. John Cena is like a terrible friend because or a terrible babyface because he doesn't have any friends. Hopefully. And with Zelina, it's like with Zelina, you want to see more relationships. And we've been seeing that, on SmackDown with Meech and BFAB. But the problem is it's like if you're not being in depth with the character, then why should I be emotionally invested if you're not going to emotionally invest time on portraying that character?
Yeah, no doubt. All right, do you agree with Mike here? Probably 5 minutes too long. A little tough, Mike. Maybe 4 minutes too long.
I mean, it's just like one of those things where it's an unfortunate position. Like we said, like the Saturday night's main event, like 5 matches is like really pushing it on a 2 hour show, especially a WWE show where there's a lot of pop and circumstance you want to get in.
Yeah.
So like I felt like 4 was the sweet spot, and then we had the fifth one announced. So it's going to be one of those things where it's like not only was the fifth one announced yesterday, it was going to be in a no-win scenario for Zelina and Chelsea Green. So you're already kind of fighting from underneath in that regard. You know, compared to the other WWE Women's Championship, United States Championship match that got a lot of time, this is the comparison a couple months later. So not a great sign, but they were on the show. You know,
They
and
did a disservice to the girls announcing
y-
it the night before. They should have
y-
gave them a proper week.
right, yeah, absolutely.
Presentation.
Yeah, and I think because like you know, they're advertising all these shows, you know, the Money in the Bank qualifiers, bless you, the Worlds Collide show, you know, they're advertising a bunch of stuff. And now you have the Evolution show that's coming in July that they announced tonight. So there's going to be a lot of ramp up production when it comes to women's wrestling. And you could argue that the women's division on both shows and even NXT are the premier shows or the premier divisions in WWE television right now. They're the ones that are garnering the most attention, the most fanfare.
Yeah, it's like I said, they didn't have to force it on this. That's
Mhm.
what it felt like. They could have just presented it, and the match would have been totally fine. They did the girls a disservice, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it just didn't connect. It was the worst match of the night, but it's not their fault. It was just
I mean,
whatever.
time constraints, the lack of build. Uh, the story is there, but it seemed like the story was kind of like a dead issue already. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Where it's just like now it's like, all right, we put a bow on this story. Now we're moving towards Zelina going one direction, Chelsea going the other direction.
All right. Next up here, we have John Cena defeating R-Truth in a non-title match via pinfall in 4 minutes and 25 seconds. Did I mispronounce R-Truth wrong? Was it Ron Cena? Was it?
That's what it said on the shirt.
I thought that whole thing was just honestly the perfect word for it is adorable. The whole thing was.
I mean, Truth is basically the embodiment of the fan that grew up with John Cena in that era where John Cena was the never to give up guy. And that's, uh, that's tailoring towards the demographic of John Cena fans. But I feel like they missed the boat with a lot of like emotional tension. But again, R-Truth's a comedy character, so you're not going to get those emotional story beats. You know what I mean? So it was the mirror match that I think a lot of people thought, Cena hitting his stuff, Truth hitting Cena stuff, hitting the STF, Cena trying to hit him with the title, Truth catches him. And then, when I saw Cena grab the title, I immediately thought of the finish right away. It's like, oh, he's going to hesitate, going to hit the low blow, AA, 1, 2, 3. And again, it's one of those things with John Cena and his limited appearances. His opponents are going to do the bulk of the selling of this matchup. And that could either be really good or really bad. We saw yesterday, Truth had to deal with the what treatment, and you even saw with Cody and Randy on their respective, like, roads to the John Cena's matches, where it's like they're the ones selling to you about this match, which is a no-win position to be in. It's like not everything's going to be the Chris Jericho, Dean Malenko effect, because we weren't sure when Dean was going to return. Now we knew where Cena's matches were going to be, and as a result, you have these expectations. Oh, is he going to come here? Is he going to come here? But with John Cena, I think a lot of people are disappointed with the heel turn, and people are like, "Oh, that's the point. He's ruining wrestling." And yeah,
It's
that
kind of
is,
lazy. Yeah.
it's just kind of like with Cena, there's only so much he can do, because I think a lot of people were expecting with this retirement run the 2015 Cena, where he's just going, balls
US
to the
title,
wall.
yeah.
It's like this is the last year he's gonna go balls to the wall. And the thing is, it's like I was expecting Austin Theory, Solo Sikoa, John Cena, where he can only do so much. He's still filming projects within this retirement tour, so it's like he's not going to go high risk, high reward that often. And I think like the best match that you're going to get out of him is a the Randy Orton type of match that we saw at Backlash. A lot of Gaga, a lot of smoke and mirrors. And even John Cena said himself that he's lost a step in the ring. And that's when he knew it was time to like
And he can
get
play in that too, but that's more of
yeah.
a babyface thing than as a heel thing. But you're at playing into your heel with
Mhm,
your mind,
mhm,
being outwitting your opponent,
mhm,
whatever, right? And that played into the finish here. But what I will say though, after the Backlash match, you saw John Cena kind of playing into his babyface feelings or his potential babyface things. And
right.
then you saw this here towards the end of this match where he had the belt and then Truth is playing into it. And Truth's been playing into it for this whole 2 long week build where
Mhm,
John Cena has been non-existent, but listening from a distance where Truth has been, I'm going to bring back the good in John Cena. I'm Ron Cena. I'm going to
mhm,
bring about the hustle, loyalty, and respect, right? And perhaps this was a presentation and a flow to do that. But of course, like Justin says here, you get John Cena in the finish like you get at WrestleMania, kicking him
mhm.
right in the dick. Justin, North South connection. Love the finish with the fake out and the low blow. They did it well with that one. And I
Well,
agree.
I think and I made a video on this about the John Cena heel turn. I feel like it's one of those things where it's like I want you like you if you've been in the scenario, I want this person to break up with me, so I don't need to break up with them kind of scenario. So John Cena turning heel was more like I want the fans to turn on me because I'm not ready to say goodbye, and they won't feel bad to see me go.
Yeah,
If they play into like more of that story, and like you have Cody, who we're going to talk about later, kind of like be that kind of voice of why he hesitated at WrestleMania, because that's the one thing you got to acknowledge at this point is why Cody hesitated. And usually for me and my thoughts is like he's a very big like on nostalgia and a very big into loyalty and history. And I feel like with John Cena, when he was begging off, you saw the real John Cena like trying to get out.
yeah,
And I feel like if you play more into that story, I feel like it could be very interesting. But again, as a story beat itself, I thought the finish was really well done. I don't think it was the emotional impact like the post backlash show. I think it was more this time more of a ploy, and they didn't really harp on it that much. Like they didn't really say anything about the backlash look that Cena gave, like of kind of like almost regret, almost like remorse.
yeah.
So it's like now it's more of I feel like John Cena not ready to say goodbye. And that's why this heel turn is happening because he wants everybody else to be angry at him so he doesn't need to say goodbye.
That's a really good point. And I'm curious how that keeps evolving with him because now we got it post match at Backlash, and now we're getting it right before the finish,
Mhm,
right? So it's like, all right, where does that kind of play into? And will it
mhm,
cost him the WWE Championship, right?
mhm.
Or will no? It's an interesting journey to go on with John through
Yeah.
it. And like, here's the thing: like people want to bitch about it, but just like you said, it's a 49, 50-year-old John Cena. He admits that he lost the step. He admits that he is not
Mhm.
even 2015 John Cena,
I
where he
mean,
had something to
yeah.
prove, right? He's not 2017 Cena, where he has his best in-ring year.
Mhm.
It, it's smart. It's just it's my pushback. I'm not like pro. It's terrible. I'm more like it's just kind of lazy in
I
a way.
mean, it's like when you have like an over 20-year build potentially on a John Cena heel turn,
Yeah,
there are so many different possibilities that are going to run through your head regardless.
yeah,
And I think there were a lot of expectations, which rightfully so, because it's like this is probably the biggest thing WWE could have done at this stage of like John Cena's career and just like WWE in general, where it's just like, oh, shocking. But then you have The Rock and his involvement now completely utterly pointless now that WrestleMania is changing locations was announced. And now it's just one of those things where it's like he was almost like pointless and now it's like you can't really mention The Rock anymore. Uh and it's just like more it's like again it's one of those stories where it's like boom we got this great start but it's like we don't know you got the beginning you got the ending of the story but the middle is going to be murky
yeah.
because it's like you have a great beginning you got a great ending how are we going to get there And right now, I feel like with John Cena, it's kind of like touch and go, where it's like, yeah, we're gonna have him face off against his rivals or past rivals, with some new things involved, and now you have this whole ruining wrestling character. And you had the "you can't wrestle" chants, and you had people chant "yes, you can," even though it's one of those things where it's like, like again, it's not going to be like Cena's always been unorthodox, but now he's like extra unorthodox, where it's like almost like a complete loop back to unorthodox again. And there's all again, like I said, there's only so much you could do. The character work, I think, is fine, but that's the thing. It's like you don't want John Cena to be fine in his retirement year. But again, this is he can't do that much in comparison to what he used to do, and that's okay. I feel like a lot of people set their expectations high, like again, rightfully so, but the expectations being in check about this is a 48-year-old man who hasn't really been consistent in the ring, and his last couple of performances haven't really been what fans usually expect him to be at.
Yeah. All right. We had a live aspect here. As always, I kind of search for that live aspect just to kind of play into it on the post show here.
Sure.
And of course, we had the world traveler, John D'Amato, from NoSo, our buddy. And then his first text to me was "Truth entrance killed live." So
Yeah,
that was pretty cool.
Yeah. And again, Truth is great, and I think a lot of people don't realize how great he is, not only to be a consistent character.
For what it is, he's great. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's just like, but the thing is, like, we've seen like the ability, he could do even more if given the opportunity. But the thing is, it's like he found like a great niche as a comedy character. I think as a serious character, it was far too short lived. And sometimes that's how the cards get dealt out sometimes. And with Truth, with the whole John Cena was my hero growing up, payoff to that. So
6 years older than John Cena, right?
yeah, so it's like it's peak comedy with that. And with this, for what it was, yeah, it was fun.
4
Mirror
minutes was
match.
perfect. This really is what it should have been.
Yeah,
It
there
was-
there were
it
a
was
couple people saying, why
excellent.
isn't this for the championship? I'm like, yeah, because like Truth isn't really looking to be champion. He's looking to just like try to get John Cena back to his
Because the
senses.
focus is to get John Cena back to being John Cena.
Yeah,
right?
so
Yeah, the title, and that's honestly in Truth's eyes, as John Cena's number one fan, getting John Cena as John Cena is more important than the title.
Yeah, so it's like, again, for what it was fine. Love the ending. Other than that, yeah, just paint by numbers, and then it led to the next segment with Jay and Cena.
Yes, so we get a, before commercial break afterwards, there's like, oh, tonight, Jey Uso's 15 years in the WWE, which is cool. Like, that's a really nice, cool coincidence, right? So have a segment saying that, whatever, go to commercial, and then come back from commercial, you get Jey Uso, and then you get John Cena bumping into him. We'll play into the finish of that match, of course. So not a real big, by the way, Richie, not a real big John Cena merch guys historically, but I kind of like that creamsicle Tampa Bay Buccaneers John Cena shirt.
Very curious.
I probably won't get it only if it
yeah.
went on clearance, and it's not going to go on clearance, but it's a cool shirt.
I'm very curious to see the MSG colors of what they're going to do.
Hopefully it's not fucking Knicks colors, probably, right?
Yeah, I mean,
how about it? Bing bong. that was
yeah, but the merch game is strong.
Yeah, he's generational Cena wealth out of all his merch.
Yeah.
Right, so. All right. Next here, Damian Priest defeating Drew McIntyre via escape from the steel cage door in 11 minutes and 50 seconds. We had probably layers of violence from their WrestleMania match, layers of chaoticness from the four-way match in this. A lot of urgency. They only were allowed 12 minutes, if that. So, mind you, Richie, Drew reports Drew's knocked up pretty bad, so they worked pretty safe.
Same thing with Priest too.
Yes. So all that being said, very acceptable, very good, 3.5 star, 12-minute Saturday night's main event cage match. I wish they had the blue cage, but I get it, right? So
apparently the blue cage hurts.
well, okay, Richie, but they can gimmick up the silver one and make it blue.
They could, but again, I don't want to be huffing those paint fumes, man.
All right, then powder coat it. Powder coat. We'll teach you about auto body, right?
Yeah.
It's doable. You had plenty of time to do it. It would have been a nice touch, but it didn't ruin it for me.
Right.
Very acceptable. Probably, honestly, match of the night.
Yeah, it's like again, this is a good cap off of the feud that they had. Uh, I thought this was more about this feud was about elevating Priest to a different level, and I think this feud was very serviceable for him. Uh, Drew McIntyre's words of like one of us is going to leave the cage and the other one's going to leave on a stretcher. And then you saw Priest leave the cage. Drew McIntyre wasn't leaving on a stretcher, but they brought the stretcher out for him. And I feel like if they harped on the ending a little bit more of like Drew McIntyre's words and Damian flipping the script on him, like he was the one to leave the cage, but McIntyre was the one who was about to leave on the stretcher. And that's more humiliating for a guy like McIntyre than it is to Priest, because Priest's kind of got the last word and you saw him like stare back in the cage. And then it's like, if people don't want to see baby faces win by the escape the door rule, just because I feel like it's a very heelish way to win, or like escaping the cage is always like the heelish way to win. But I feel like if they like were really gonna like put Priest to that next level, you give him the definitive pinfall win. The concerto I felt like was a good finality moment, and then you just kind of get the pin from there, and then you have Priest like again look back on the cage and then just kind of walk out. But they wanted to be literal with Drew's words and having the finish of Damien being the one walking under his own power and McIntyre potentially going to be on the stretcher.
All right. So the nugget that I took out of that concerto was Michael Cole playing into. He did that to the last leader he had. He did that the last time he had a character change.
Mm-hmm.
The last time he did that was to Edge when they kicked him out of the Judgment Day and he became a leader, de facto leader of the Judgment Day. He wasn't the leader, but he was pretty much was the leader of the Judgment Day. So now he's using this concerto. Is it kind of apropos that we see the next layer of this Damian Priest character coming? And what does that mean? I'm not sure. Like I really, really did like the body language of him leaving the cage and kind of being like, do I want to end it like this? Yes, I'm just gonna go out here and close the literal door in the chapter of this feud.
Yeah,
So
because
I
now
like
it's Damien like no longer being controlled by vengeance about this McIntyre feud. Now he can finally let go and, like you said, go on to the next story. Which I think you have a couple possibilities. On SmackDown, it's a tough position to be in if you're Damian Priest or if you're LA Knight, if you're any of those guys who are on the cusp of breaking through that next level, because the WWE Championship scene is occupied by John Cena, and it's kind of determined around John Cena and his appearances. I do think Priest would be a good opponent for Cena, just because I feel like Cena works best with guys that are bigger than him, and especially at this stage, you have Priest, kind of like
yeah, he's
get
that
the
Randy
rubber.
Orton type of body, right? Maybe even a little bit
Yeah,
bigger. It would
yeah,
work.
yeah. And I feel like that would be a good position for Priest to be in. However, with both of them banged up, I wouldn't be surprised if they take a little bit of time off, and then you have him return after Money in the Bank, and you could potentially have him being the next challenger for Jacob Fatu. Yes, I know it's the United States Championship, and Priest has held that before, but let's be honest, no one really remembers Priest showing the Damien within himself in that lovely United States Championship feud, because it was crazy with Priest being over, winning the United States Championship, and then slowly but surely you just heard like the crowd just go ice cold for him.
Yeah,
But now he's finally in a position where it's
I
like
forgot about that, honestly.
people are reacting to him, and I think he lost a bit of steam because I think a lot of people like the Terror Twins duo of him and Rhea.
Mhm.
So it's like, again, it's similar to the Zelina thing that I was talking about earlier. It's like once you're in an associated act that has a popular figure, Rhea, Ray, and then you go on your own, you're kind of starting from ground zero a little bit. I feel like with Priest, him facing off against the Bloodline is probably the most logical step next, depending on if it's going to be Solo, if it's going to be Jacob. just to keep him in the mix. And I feel like him being continuously in that mix is very imperative for him in the future.
All right, let's close the chapter on Damian. Yes, with him, I did not suspect him to win this match. So I'm curious if it was a necessity of this report I'm going to read next, or it was the plan, and if they have bigger plans than I suspected for Damian Priest.
Mhm.
Kind of Cena, maybe
Mhm.
Bloodline. We'll see, right? Interesting. Buy stock now. I would have bought stock a week ago on Damian Priest because I thought like maybe it would have not shorted, but like maybe dropped a little bit. So if he
Yeah.
bought last week, I think that's kind of the floor for it. I think his water level is gonna rise up here.
Yeah. I thought it was going to be like a finish where it's like Damien hits like the razor's edge and cracks the cage door or like the cage wall,
The
and then
Umaga
Mac
finish, right?
and then like McIntyre wins that way, but McIntyre still leaves on a stretcher, so Damien still has that finality while not getting the victory. But when you have Damien lose at WrestleMania, you kind of have to have him have a win here in order to kind of solidify himself in this feud himself. And then with people, I think they were initially disappointed with Drew being in this feud, but again, I think they proved a lot of people wrong in this being like a very solid, very nice feud for both of them to add to their repertoire.
No doubt. All right, and this is the report that I was talking about. Drew McIntyre will be off WWE TV for the foreseeable future. McIntyre has been working hurt for some time, finished his current WWE dates tonight with a loss to Damian Priest at Saturday night's main event. The word backstage at the show was McIntyre would be taking an extensive period off and is off TV going forward. While there is talks of McIntyre landing a potential big Hollywood role for some time, his absence will not be related to that and is more about his personal time off, PW Insider.
Mhm.
So, I didn't see that coming. I didn't see the big prolonged time off. That kind of stinks for us, but he's going to only come back hotter.
The thing is, I think he's coming back and he's going straight for Cody.
Yeah, and hopefully Cody is layered and ready for him. I'm going to suspect the summer, honestly.
Honestly, after like Cody wins at SummerSlam, hypothetically, 2 night SummerSlam, and then next SmackDown, you have Drew immediately attack Cody. Then you have your fall program right there. So Cody is occupied. So it's not like when Cody won the championship last time, they were kind of like wishy washy on who the next contenders would be. And he didn't really have many heels to work with on SmackDown during that time period. So now you could do Cody Drew, you could do Cody Randy if you really wanted to, and you could finally finish it off at WrestleMania with Cody Punk.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, let's catch up with the comments here. And this is from earlier in the night. Justin again. Jesse's the GOAT, but he had a really rough night tonight. Kind of agree.
I mean, confusing the Paul brothers was pretty fun.
Yeah. And then Jesse ranted about winning via door was observed. Drew and Damian have great chemistry. They really do have great chemistry.
They do. It's like
absolutely do.
it's big guy chemistry, and the thing is, it's like how the cruiserweights were a rarity in the '90s. Now, like big guy versus big guy is almost a rarity in today's modern era of wrestling, and as a result, they become more of the attraction than the cruiserweight style because now the cruiserweight style is more of the norm.
Yeah, no doubt. And then as we transition into the main event here, probably wrong podcast, really didn't see Uso and Cena angle coming.
Mhm.
I saw it. Obviously we saw the segment before the cage match,
Correct.
and I wasn't sure if it would play into the actual finish of the
Mhm.
match that we're going to get into. I thought maybe we were going to see like fireworks afterwards, but like we said to open the show, Richie,
Mhm.
9:50, Logan Paul was entering the ring. I was just like, this is kind of weird vibe wise,
For me, I'm
right?
like, all right, this is more of the angle like that's gonna happen just because I didn't expect a straight up finish like we saw the backstage between Jay and John. I thought John, with the ruin in wrestling, it's like if I leave with this championship, how great it would be if it's the world title was on the waist of a YouTuber. It's like easy heat. And then with Logan and Jay, again, they were just kind of. It felt like they were rushing. They were rushing because it's like they're rushing through all the spots, and it's like they were going 2 times speed because you could tell because usually with commercial breaks, like it's coming back there like in a hold or something, but they were just like going through the commercial break. Same thing with the cage match as well,
Which
where
is
it's
unfortunate for those
yeah.
matches, right?
Yeah, at the same time, like it's unfortunate, but you understand that with the Saturday night's main event is tailored towards. It's tailored towards
Still 4 matches.
more of the. It's more tailored towards not only the casual viewer, but also like giving the promotion. It's like, oh, our stars do this here, they do this here. Look at how great our stars are. So again, as a match itself, it was fine. It was like a showcase a little bit. They tried to make the story around the punch of Logan Paul.
Well,
Uh,
he's knocked him out 4 times leading into this, right?
yeah, I felt it was kind of funny with the middle turnbuckle spot and then like the punch and then Jay immediately kicking out, but that was more of a timing thing. I don't think that was a Jay thing. As a match itself, they went through it fine, but again, it felt very quick, very fast forward.
Yeah, they would have benefited this from being on Monday Night Raw, but I understand it's not Monday Night Raw, it's Saturday Night's main
Hmm.
event, and this is a bigger platform than Monday Night Raw,
Hmm.
but, it is what it was. The acceleration kinda maybe helped the match. Logan Paul still has less than 20 matches in his career, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
And he is very rehearsed match. So I wonder if they kind of rehearsed that speed or they went out there and maybe compromised a little bit. And that's something Logan Paul very rarely does, if that ever is compromised. But now you're on national TV. You have a time queue of perhaps 12, 13 minutes. That's now 8. Then it's like, all right, well, what do we do? What do we cut? Right. So we still have our TV, right? Commercial. So it's like,
Mhm.
oh, I wonder if there was any of that going on in Logan. And if 12, 20, 25 matches in, is he seasoned enough to
Mhm.
kind of go out there and do it? And Jey Uso's been in the WWE for 15 years.
Yeah.
Say what you want about his in-ring style. He's going to fit into any style
Yeah.
TV structure match, right?
Yeah, I'm just glad they gave Jey Uso like a chance to main event an actual show, and
And
actually
I'm
have like
glad
a
it
different.
wasn't a before you sorry, Richard, I just cut you off.
Yep.
I was really glad it wasn't a no contest and they
Yeah,
did the hoopla and they went to the finish.
because the last couple of Jay outings post WrestleMania, the Seth Rollins finish, the
Yeah.
Braun Breaker finish, non finishes, DQ finishes, doesn't really make him look great as a world champion. If you do that too much, you get Rey Mysterioized. If you remember his run. Now, Jay's run, I feel like they've done very well creating roadblocks for him.
Mhm.
And that's what you want to do with a quote unquote underdog champion is create roadblocks. But the thing is that they're not like over the top roadblocks like Ray had to face during his title run. With Jay, it's more realistic. It's like, all right, I have Seth Rollins to face. Then I have and then it's like I have Gunther waiting in the wings on Raw if I get past Logan Paul. But now you have this Money in the Bank tag team match. So there's a lot of different aspects involved with all of that. So with Jay as world champion, I think they're portraying him as good as they can, and I think they're giving him opportunities to succeed. It's just more of if they want to plan with him for more of a long term, or if you're trying to get the SummerSlam, you have to do things like this to keep the viewer stimulated, saying it's like, okay, the world title scene is booming because it's surrounding around Jay and everything that's going on right now. Because that's how the show should revolve. And like Jay's tied to this, which is tied to this, which is tied to this. You have so many people that are gunning for Jay, and as a result, he becomes the most important part of the show because of that championship. And that's what that title has needed for the longest time. And you could argue that it's more important on Jay's waist than it was on Gunther, because with Gunther, they haven't really treated him as the top champion when he was champion.
Yeah. All right, we'll get to the Cody at the end. We'll talk
Mhm.
Gunther right now.
Yep.
If you're Jey Uso, kayfabe here,
Hmm.
is your radar up that your time is up and you've only had a 2-month reign, 3-month reign, or how do you feel going into the Gunther reign? Do you feel that Gunther perhaps takes the belt, the Money in the Bank winner takes the belt?
Hmm.
Do you think Jay is vulnerable as a champion?
I think he is, especially during Money in the Bank season.
Yes.
You know,
I'm saying for that Phoenix show after Money in the Bank. Is that the target date, or is that just like a big jump up moment for him to have a win and maybe leads to like Goldberg or something else? What do you think?
I think it's like a red herring kind of thing, where it's like it could very well be Goldberg, and especially since Saturday night's main event is going to be in Atlanta, you could
Yeah.
kind of piece together what's probably going to happen.
About 5 weeks after that date. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like we'll get like Goldberg Gunther there, I don't think it would be for a world championship. Goldberg did say he finished creative plans, so it wouldn't surprise me if like Gunther did win the world championship just so Goldberg could say my retirement match is a world title match. But gosh forbid. But I really do feel like with Jay, you have that finish with Gunther, and then you could potentially have the Money in the Bank cash in. And I feel like hypothetically, you could have Seth Rollins win the briefcase, him trying to cash in because it's like 10 years after the heist of the century, and then you have Roman return on that night post Money in the Bank to stop Rollins, and that's his official return. Or you could have somebody like an LA Knight who is desperately probably needs a change of scenery since he's been on SmackDown for a while and has pretty much ran out of almost everybody he's faced so far. So
squeezing the lemon kind of dry with the LA Knight on SmackDown.
yeah, so or at least like if there's like a draft coming up, like at least shift the rosters in that regard. But he's still very over,
Oh, no,
like, and the thing is, it's like the losses don't really matter to him because he's like perpetually over. But you got to do something with him, and I feel like Money in the Bank.
Keyword, I said SmackDown, not yeah. There's plenty of juice in LA Knight for sure.
Yeah, especially on if he changes to Raw, and like granted, Jey Uso versus LA Knight, I don't think a lot of people would like really like that.
Kind of works,
but it does work because both of them are very similar in terms of how they got over organically. And I feel like LA Knight would be in a different dynamic position that people would accept him in.
They wouldn't have to work hard to elicit the crowd, and having the crowd is half the battle within a match structure. So
yeah, absolutely,
no doubt. All right, the elephant in the room, the big return from the first time since WrestleMania. The quarterback is back, as Michael Cole called it as he ran to the ring.
I mean, I don't know because Cody deleted that off his Twitter bio, so I'm not sure if I believe it.
Hold on, he added it in his Twitter bio?
Yeah, he added his Twitter bio.
Like, Cody naturally is corny. That's pretty cool. Like, I was a 3-year varsity starter at my high school. Should I put that in my bio for on Twitter? Do you think that would be over at the age of 40? Like, come on, Cody. That's like why delete it? Just go with it. It's.
I mean, it's like that, like it's kind of like the big thing where people can like tool their own like social media to create buzz. Yeah. You know what I mean? Where it's like Cody did that, where it's like I think it was like a week out of tonight, where it's like, ooh, what's gonna happen? But then it's like Cody's at Universal riding roller coasters, and I'm like, okay, he's probably showing up at Saturday night's main event. And it was funny. Somebody wrote in my comments on one of the videos because I'm like, yeah, I feel like Cody's returning on Saturday night's main event, and someone said, as Mr. Santi Zap would say, don't expect anything big at Saturday night's main event. Well, to that person I say, Santi Zap ain't Richie Mars, so that's what happens.
Did he at least tag Santi Zap in his comment?
Nah, he didn't.
Not like he would have done it anyways.
Yeah, there have been people who tag Santi Zap in my content. I'm not sure if he watches. I doubt he does. But from what I've heard, I feel like he's a nice guy.
I feel like he watches his own content. Like, he kind of seems to be into himself. But anyways, that's for
I mean, so am I, but
it's working for him. God bless him, right?
Yeah.
So. All right. Cody's back. Your quarterback is back. I thought Cole did a good job. He does do a good job with the big returns, calling and whatnot. Yeah. Again, I don't want to like beat a dead horse, but Cody comes out with 30 seconds, 40 seconds before the show is over. It really takes away from that potential moment and the urgency and everything to kind of really relay the moment, saying, you have your little boyfriend, Logan Paul, your YouTuber buddy now. Well, I got my best friend, Jey Uso, in my corner, and let's have a tag match at Money in the Bank, spike it, and then we're off the air.
The only thing I'm looking for in Money in the Bank, I hope Cody and Jay win for the simple fact is I want another press conference. I want another press conference with both of them. I need that like legitimately to happen. And the thing is, like with that tag match in general, you have like both champions in the same tag match.
I think that's cool. Money in the Bank is it's like Royal Rumble light.
That's what I'm saying, because it's like you have New Orleans who has next year's Money in the Bank. So that gives them something. It's like, oh, last year's Money in the Bank was big. Now this year's match is going to be big. And like, again, It's no WrestleMania. Let me make that perfectly clear. But at least it portrays like, okay, they're at least making Money in the Bank seem more special than it actually
It really
is. Of
is the
just
fourth PLE,
yeah, it kind
not
of
worse,
overtook
in my
Survivor
opinion. Yeah,
Series a little bit. But at the same time, if this match goes on last, another thing to like keep in mind is the Money in the Bank contract holder, depending on who that is.
true.
Not saying that I don't I expect a cash in, but that's another little like fun thing you could toy around with during this whole entire like
2010
story.
Kane vibes, right? Like he wins and then cashes it in. That's Alexa Bliss,
That was such a
2017.
like you had Dean Ambrose, you had Liv Morgan, you had Bailey, like
Bailey
all
did
one
it
day.
right up.
I think Night of, yeah, she did Night of.
Yes, I was there live, Richie.
Yeah, come on now.
Mhm.
But
Hot.
the 2010 was like an odd year because there were like three Money in the Bank holders that same year. You know,
Kane,
yet
Jack Swagger, and The Miz was the most popular one
well, I
at
was
that
there for
point.
the only Fatal 4-Way pay per view, and that was also the pay per view debut of the Usos. So
No,
like
Hart
tying that
Dynasty.
off,
I'm
yeah,
guessing that's probably safe guess versus the Hart Dynasty.
yeah, versus the Hart Dynasty in that six person tag match, and Rey Mysterio winning the World Championship for the second time, and the reign that nobody remembers because it lasted a month.
All right, here's some very obscureness. All right, so
Mhm,
the Usos' first ever match was on Superstars versus Goldust and Mark Henry.
mhm,
And Jimmy Uso's first ever match was January 26, 2007,
mhm,
in a tag match with another jobber. I have no clue what, I can't remember his name, like John Evans or something like that,
mhm.
versus Deuce and Domino.
Uh,
So there's a little trivia today that I saw. So
yeah,
that's interesting. All right, will we be turning this tag match into a 6-man match
it's very possible. You know,
with
I
Jimmy and
could,
Travis Scott?
yeah, fiend.
Or
Uh,
did they just say, Travis Scott, just like The Rock, we're punting this? Sorry.
they wouldn't punt it, because Travis Scott, like he's a celebrity who wants to do wrestling, so
He's been training.
they're going to utilize him.
Yeah.
You know, as much as people don't want it. I will say that it's gonna be very Dennis Rodman esque. I feel like where it's gonna be like it's a lot of heat, a lot of like on the turnbuckle doing his like own thing in his own world, and then it's gonna be he's not going to embarrass himself that bad. I feel
He's
like
on the brink of like full rejection, so he needs to have a good outing.
yeah, and plus he's training with Booker T, so I feel like if Booker wasn't confident in his skills, we wouldn't really see Travis Scott in that matchup. And
Perhaps that's why we didn't get that big announcement tonight. Even though you don't want to overshadow Cody Rhodes, right? You can
mhm,
get heat on him, and that you get 4 more shows to get the heat
mhm.
on him, right?
Honestly, I'd be surprised. I was surprised that we didn't see Travis Scott tonight, and you had that that three-person contingency of Cena, Logan, and Travis, and then Cody made his return. But again, it's one of those things where it's like they're fast forwarding through everything, and as we saw Travis walk down the aisle at WrestleMania, speeding up ain't really the strong suit of it.
He is
So
still walking down the aisle at WrestleMania
yeah,
as we
you know,
speak. That's why he
yeah,
wasn't in Tampa tonight.
yeah, so it is possible that it's going to be a six-man tag. I think it being a 2-on-2 makes it a little bit simpler, a little bit more confined. And I feel like with Jimmy, they're already kind of playing the story about Solo trying to bring him back in the bloodline. So I don't want that to like interrupt. And also shout out to Solo because he's probably the most improved leaps and bounds, like character wise. And I feel like a lot of people haven't been talking about it.
You kind
Uh,
of well, here's the thing with that.
mhm.
It's because it's much lower down the card. Like he should never have been that high up with the
Well,
level of where he was at.
well, yeah, I do agree, but also like they're actually making him be more himself.
him being more funny
Yeah,
helps. Like letting
yeah,
him be more
you
funny
know,
helps.
it's like even like when I saw him like in that Jay versus Braun Intercontinental Championship match where he has like the Yeet shirt and he said I got tickets. Like I'm like that's what we should have been focusing on, not this
Yeah,
like
he's a
fake.
little goofy brother.
Yeah,
That's
like
what he is.
not like this fake like kingpin kind of character that they were trying to portray. Like he's in a good niche, you know, with Jacob Fatu, you know, he has like the total package to a lot of people. Solo going the more entertaining route, I feel like solidifies him more and separates him more than his family.
Yeah, he's a vibes guy. Like he's
Yeah,
that rotation on the D line guy that you throw in there. He's not
yeah.
that quarterback. He's not that middle linebacker, the head of the
Like he
defense.
could be, but again, it's like let him cook a little bit.
He's that third and long D line guy that's quick and
Ju-
you can make beat a center and
Trust me, a couple
cause
years
pressure on
down the line, we're gonna be talking about Solo being in the main event picture and not letting it be out of place.
He's a tag guy. Anyway. All right, D'Amato, 3 pops of the night, the top 3 pops of the night. Number 1 was Cody, number 2 was Truth,
Mhm.
and number 3 was Cena. D'Amato, a real CM Punk pushback kind of guy.
Oh, okay, yeah,
I
yeah.
think CM Punk might have been in the top 3,
Yeah.
and we'll
Yeah,
insert him right under Cody.
from my experience of going to WWE shows, last Saturday night's main event I went to was the one in Long Island. Cody was the top pop of the night, you know, and you know Long Island is a very generous crowd. They don't boo baby faces at all. Again, you do hear some boos because you know people like Kevin Owens and whatnot, but like Cody Rhodes does like he generates a lot of noise, and the thing I compare it to is like John Cena at the peak when it's like mostly positive too. Like I don't think people are sick of seeing Cody. Like I there he's dubbed the quarterback for a reason, even though I do find it like you know cringy giving yourself your own nickname. I don't like that.
Well,
Uh,
did he give it or did Cole get? Well, first of all, he put it in his bio, so I
Yeah,
assume
come,
he accepts
yeah,
it. He
yeah,
accepts
yeah. You know, it's one of those. It's like the finish of the story thing, you know, where Cole started it and then Cody just kind of like ran with it a little bit to help sell it a little bit more. I think Cody's like again, he's that rarity where he's a pure baby face and he's like in a position where no one rejects him. And and the thing is, he's a great wrestler, great worker. And if this tag match does happen, whether it's a 2-on-2 or 3-on-3, it's going to be detriment for Cody to kind of like lead the charge in a wrestling sense. And that's probably going to be one of his biggest tests because you have Logan Paul, who people like, he rehearses. John Cena, who is, again, he's still John Cena, but he's like a 48-year-old John Cena who admitted he has a step behind. And Travis Scott, this is going to be his first like wrestling match atmosphere, along with Jay, who people like to say is limited, and Jimmy, who just has a whisper in the wind compared to his brother, and it's like the night and day, like the same move set. But again, we'll see what happens.
I hope we get the 6 man, right? I think we will,
Mhm.
and I'm happy Cody's back. Was
Yeah,
there a void without Cody Rhodes? Perhaps there was. You know, that with the big acceptance that he got from the crowd tonight
mhm.
kind of proves that. But even from a weekly SmackDown 3-hour bogged downness,
Yeah,
you could see that those baby faces since WrestleMania has been stretched really, really thin, kind of dating back
yeah,
to our LA Knight conversation, our Damian Priest conversation.
yeah.
Those guys have been really stretched thin on the
Mhm.
SmackDown side of thing, and Cody Rhodes is much needed on Friday nights.
Especially because you have Drew McIntyre, who's probably going to be out for a while. You have John Cena, who's not there every week. You don't have Randy Orton there every week.
Yeah,
Uh, you have the Wyatt Six coming back. You have Cody coming back. And I feel like this is only going to make things stronger because they want to make their roster stronger for what's going to happen at the SummerSlam 2-night event. So I feel like it couldn't have happened at a better time. And I feel like his presence was definitely missed, especially because those 3-hour SmackDowns, man, it could drain you very much.
and really no real sight at end where they kind of hinted early June would be the end, and there's no confirmation to that. And if you're a USA Network, why are you going to reject ad dollars for SmackDown, right?
That's the thing, you know, and it's just like really depends on where they see SmackDown going. If SmackDown's a new 3-hour show, you know, you have to try to find flow with it. I think Raw has it perfect with the 2.5 hour
2.5,
format. Uh, so I think 2.5 hours is a perfect length for a wrestling show. Again, 2 hours here was kind of a detriment because, network television, commercials galore. But again, it's more of an advertisement of what they got going on with Money in the Bank, Worlds Collide, uh, the Evolution show, the next Saturday night's main event coming, the NXT Battleground. Again, this is more of an advertisement of WWE, the product, with like, hey, if you liked what you saw here, a little sneak preview, you could like go to these other shows to see a more elongated version of what we do.
And if tonight tells you anything, NBC Universal loves their ad revenue, right? So we got a plethora of that tonight. But overall, I seem like I'm down on Saturday night's main event. I'm not. Still think they're worthy to the preview. I still think they're worthy for the post shows. The paper is extremely sexy. The card on paper is extremely sexy. And I feel like overall they are a success. It's just the slog. Like you're going to bitch. It just seems like the theme is bitching about the layout and what they could have and should have done. But overall, I totally accept the nostalgia. I love Tatanka, Liani Kai, the U.S. Express, Jimmy Hot, Bushwhacker Luke. I love the new rotation of the legends getting turned in, and all of them are synonymous with Saturday night's main event, right? The U.S. Express winning the first ever Saturday night's main event match against, I wish I remembered, but I don't want to say Sheik and Volkov, but maybe, perhaps. And then Liani Kai was in the facing the no, it was Wendy Richter versus Fabulous Moolah. So I don't. Liani Kai had a big one in a match there in '86 too, I think. So all these guys synonymous with it. Bushwhackers with Jimmy Hart, they faced the Rougeau brothers, I'm sure, on Saturday night's main event and whatnot. So yeah, where are you at with the nostalgia? I still think it's very warranted to kind of be a thing for sure.
Yeah. I would like it if they added a little bit more nostalgia for Saturday night's main event. Like again, you have Lillian Garcia doing the ring announcements. You have Jesse Ventura doing one of the matches. I would like it if like they kind of rotate and have like what they did with Cody. The Winged Eagle Championship one night. I thought it would be pretty cool if Jay came out with the not was it called
Big Gold?
Big Gold. Yeah, I was gonna call it the 10 pounds of gold, but that's the NWA Championship. But like Big Gold, just like kind of like you have the ability to tie in like more nostalgia in there, and I feel like the appearances with everyone just like kind of sitting and waving is pretty good, but at the same time I understand you want to gear towards the main audience or the mainstream product, so you don't have the newer fans going like, oh, did he switch the championship belt, and then it gives a whole kerfuffle little deal. But again, we have the internet, so everything could be searched up in a blink of an eye. But overall, with this Saturday night's main event, I thought it did its job. Tied up some stories, started new ones, and advertised all the next shows that we're going to see, which is what pretty much Saturday night's main event is kind of meant to do. It's like that stopgap instead of that finality of a show where it's like it's about the matches, it's about the in-ring product. It's more about what we're going to advertise to next.
Yep. I think we're due for a battle royal and a lumberjack match. Those are kind of two synonymous nostalgia gimmicks that they've had in the past on Saturday night's main event. So yes, I'm more of that. And then one last comment before we get out of here, Dominic. More nostalgia is needed. Do not get rid of it. Absolutely, 100%. We agree with that, Dominic, for sure. All right, Richie, we're at the end here. I think we're back for Saturday night's main event in July. But before that, we are going to have Night of Champ. Oh, no, we're going to have Money in the Bank in 2 weeks.
Yeah,
and then 2 or 3 weeks after that.
Like 3, yeah.
Night of Champions. And then we have a week off for 4th of July-ish. And then we jump right into the back-to-back night, Saturday night's main event in Evolution. July is going to be a very busy night.
Yeah, we got July and July. It's going to be a busy summer, that's for sure. We got
SummerSlam's early August. Yeah,
it's going to be a lot of content, and I'm excited for it because usually more content you can make on what's going on, the easier the shows are going to get through and to have a nice flow to it. And hopefully we get a lot of surprises with some long-term stories at the same time, which is kind of a hard thing to do. Sometimes it's kind of like rubbing your stomach and tapping your head, but hopefully we get a quality shows going
Yeah, that's
further.
kind of hard.
Yeah. Did you just try to do
All right,
it?
guys, it's been great. But Richie, teaser: John Cena, Raw or SmackDown?
Oof. Probably Raw.
All right, maybe SmackDown. That's coming soon to the NoSo. A little teaser: Raw or SmackDown. Perhaps there'll be a wheel. You know me, gimmicks galore.
Mhm.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, Dominic. Thanks to all the guys that've been here all night. It's been fun with the interaction. We've had a steady stream of guys sticking and watching in the background, regardless. So,
Mhm.
yes, have a good night as well, Richie.
Mhm.
You have a good night too. We're out of here, pal.
Thank you. You as well.
Thanks, guys.